Thank you, Sai, so much for being here for another budget strategy session. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you.
Good. Now, we've had some technical difficulties, but I think we are ready to go. So if you notice the sound as you're listening, it sounds, we can still have the conversation. So I think it's important to still have the conversation, even though technology is not, it's like never, my friend. If you've been with me for a while, you know that technology just hates me. But we're going to dive in anyway. And we are going to tackle her biggest struggle and some quick action steps that she can take to get through that and kind of start making progress. So that's what we do here in the budget strategy session. So before we kind of dive into your biggest struggle, of course, share just what you're comfortable sharing, but can you give us a little bit of background about you or your family, kind of like the overall high level view of what you've got going on right now?
Okay, so and this is a contributing factor. So there is me and my son, who's 5 years old. Um, I I was there's always so when I was pregnant, I moved my mum in. So there was me, my son, and my mum. Um, we I was working at the time, and my mum was poorly. That's why I moved her in. I lost my mum last year, and I stopped work to look after her. And at that point, we were kind of pooling our money together. I was in a good position financially, had my son, and was kind of stopped work to look after her. Mum passed away, and I'm in the UK, so because I was looking after her, I was getting like £60 a week to look after her. But when my mum passed away, that income stopped. I didn't feel ready to go back to work because of that, but obviously I've still got my son. Um, I also needed an operation, so wasn't able to go back to work. So I'm in a situation now where I've literally burnt through all my savings, and I am kind of living very, um, what is it, paycheck to paycheck is what you guys say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the UK we have a different expression. I'm broke.
Yeah.
so So yeah, but what I've actually realised, and by watching you, is I actually seem to have a little bit more income than I thought I did. I would have said my income was about just over £1,000, but it's not. It's actually £1,600, which is quite a big difference. So where is it going, and what am I doing? And yeah, I just have no idea where to start.
Gotcha. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your mom. I mean, I know that was a big deal for you, and I'm glad that you are now kind of getting back on track and kind of, getting things back going. So um, okay, so I have a couple questions before we get started. Do you, Will you keep getting the 1,600, if you go back to work, or is there like a deadline on that where it doesn't come in anymore, or will you have that coming in for a long time?
So the 1,600, so £1,000 worth of that is from like my mum's
Okay,
property.
awesome.
Okay,
Okay.
so that's an income there, and then the £600 is from um a mixture of, over here we have £80 a month of child benefit. So if you've got a child, and you earn under a certain amount, the government give you £80. It's like £82 something. Um, then there is uh, £300 that is from another source that will finish in August this year. So the £80 will continue, the £1,000 should continue. The £300 will not continue past August.
Okay.
And then there's like £147 that, no, it's £180 actually. That's child maintenance from his dad.
Gotcha.
And that potentially could go up or down every August.
Gotcha. Okay. So is your plan or desire to go back to work, or do you want to kind of focus on what you have coming in now?
So yes, I need to go back to work. I've taken the time to make sure that my son's okay. That was really important. My health is back on track. So I'm ready to go back to work. So and what I do hopefully can go back and earn really like good money. However, that could be a process. It could be at least a month. So, and I don't want to go back to work and earn £50,000 a year and don't know where it goes. I feel like I want to be in a good position budget wise to be able to manage that.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. So are you able to maintain all your bills with the money that you have coming in now? Or are you getting like behind each month? And you don't have to go into like the numbers, but does the
Yeah,
money that you have coming in cover all your expenses?
it should do, but there was a couple of months where I literally had about £800, I think, or between and £800, and I really fell behind. So it's like a catch up at the moment.
Yeah. And when you don't have that much money coming in, it is harder to get caught back up because you're just kind of
Yeah.
maintaining with that amount of money, I'm sure. Or, you might have a little left over, but it's harder to get, $800 kind of caught back up when you don't have as much coming in. So that's definitely something that once you go back to work and have some extra income, it'll be real easy for you to get caught up and really like make a lot of progress on your financial goals and long-term goals. So that's awesome that you're able to do that and kind of maintain. So then that money will kind of be extra. So, do you feel like your struggle, based on a comment you said earlier, that I forgot now what it was, but it made me think that you're not 100% sure where the money is going that you are spending each month. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
And I would say that that's probably been a theme probably since I started work.
Okay,
Like,
gotcha. Yeah, that's very
yeah,
common. Very, very normal. Like that's pretty much anybody that is just not, really thinking about what, their day-to-day spending. Like hardly anybody does that unless you're like being intentional about it. So that's very normal. So don't feel bad that that it's that way because that's totally normal. So what I would suggest for you is there's a couple of things you can do to kind of be intentional with where your money is going and being able to know where it went instead of having that feeling of where did it go? I don't know. And the biggest thing to do for that is tracking your spending, which is the thing that nobody wants to do. And there's a couple ways that you can do it is, if you like pen and paper like I do, I just carry a small notebook. It doesn't have to be like a big planner or anything like that. I carry just a smaller size notebook with me, like in my purse, or if I'm at home, I'll bring it inside when I need to like catch up my tracking and stuff. But I literally write down every transaction. And that's the biggest impact on your mindset. And when you start actually looking at the numbers of where your money has been going, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I spent that much money eating out or on groceries or just Amazon, or you know what I mean? So it's like once you realize what the number is, usually something will click And you can start to change that behavior because it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I spent that much because it's a little here, it's a little there, and it just adds up and we don't realize it. So the same thing happens to me when I'm not writing things down. So that's the biggest way to kind of get a handle on that. And if you don't like pen and paper, of course, you could use a simple spreadsheet, a Google Sheet. It's free, and you can just put in like the date, the transaction, the category. And one thing I like to do that helps me kind of keep track of the numbers. So I have, when we used to write checks, I don't know if you're old enough. If you to write checks, nobody writes checks anymore. But we used to have
No,
these
I'm
checkbook registers, and we would write down the day, the check number, the where we wrote the check to, the amount, if it posted yet, and your bank balance. So what I do is the same concept, but I have a column for the category. Um, so like let's say it's food. So I'll have a column, I'll have the main column that says category. So it'll be food. Then I have another column next to that that says food balance. So how much is left in my food category, and then I will have food spent and how much I've spent in the category. I just like to see those two numbers if you're doing everything digital so that you can see, okay, I've spent this much on food and this is how much I have left for food until
right.
the new month starts or new paycheck, however you want to divide it up. So that has been very helpful for me. And then the other thing that you could do, I don't know if you use much cash, or I know some countries like hardly anybody uses cash, but I do encourage, if you're comfortable with it, if it's something that you can do pretty easily, is to use cash envelopes. But if you don't, there are digital ways to use envelopes. And basically the overall idea is, once you like get money that comes in, because since you have several different sources, I'm going to assume that it may come in at different times, so you're not getting just one paycheck, so it makes it a little bit it's some extra steps to kind of create the plan itself versus like a paycheck budget where when you get paid, this is what you do. So same concept, but you'll need to tweak it a little bit for your situation. But basically what you would do is when the money comes in, you have a plan for it. And so when you get, let's say, the $1,000, you're going to pay this bill, this bill, this bill, have this much money for food, this much money for entertainment or transportation or whatever the other things that you need to pay for. And some of those categories, let's say eating out, because that's a big one for a lot of us, at least here in the US, we eat out a lot. And that's one that you could do with cash. So let's say your budget is $50. And as an example, you take out $50 in cash and you just have it there in an envelope. So like you literally have to hand over the money. And when you spend and it's gone, then you're supposed to stop spending. That's the idea. You see it and you see you're out of money for that category and you stop spending. So it's kind of an extra mental step as well, because it feels very different to hand over the cash versus swiping a card. It just does. So I encourage that for categories that you are regularly overspending on, and usually it's food, either groceries or fast food or eating out. So that's typically the biggest. You don't have to do it for like every category. Like nobody expects you to pay your bills in cash. Like that can, I mean, nobody wants to do that, right? So it's just, you can start with like one or two categories and kind of test it out and see if you like that or not. The important thing is to find what works for you, right, in your situation. So, I like to use a spreadsheet for certain things. I use a notebook for certain things. I use cash envelopes, but I also have digital envelopes. Like for my brain, I've had to figure out what works for me. And it's like these little things. So don't feel like you have to do it one way. Like you might like having the notebook, but you also like having a spreadsheet for certain things. So it's really finding the combination, what works for you. And especially since, you're in the UK, so things are a little bit different there. So, you may not want to do certain things, or if you're a visual person, you may be fine with a spreadsheet, or you know what I mean? So just figure out what works for you by trying different things. And know it's going to take practice and it's going to take time. So don't be afraid to start because you feel like you're not sure what to do or which thing to do, because we overthink everything. We overthink all of it. And truly, it doesn't matter. As long as you're taking action and trying something, that is progress and you will get there. But if you stay stuck and don't do anything, you won't, right? You have to like just start doing, and just start trying to figure it out. So I love that you're here because that's what you're trying to do. So I'm really excited for you and this year because it's the beginning of 2023. So I would love to follow up with you in a few months and see where you're at and how things are going. But what is something that you could do in the next 24 hours that you think would help you with this? It could be just getting a notebook. It could be figuring out what categories you want to use for cash, if you're going to use cash, or setting up kind of an electronic way to organize the amounts. So what are you thinking? What can you do?
The notebook, the small notebook, and it comes everywhere with me because I have tried to put every receipt in my bag, and then they're
Yes.
like, "Do you want a receipt?" And I'm like, "No," and then I'm like, "Oh, I forgot about that." So I think the pen in the notebook would work really well. So I can pop and get a notebook, especially, and I think the cash envelopes. Um, would be really good for me because over here we do a lot of debit
Hmm.
card, and a mixture of cash.
Oh, okay,
But
good.
I find that cash is very different. I try to hold on to my
Hmm.
cash.
Yep.
I looked today and I was like, how much cash have I got? Right, okay. What did we buy? We bought something earlier, and oh, we just bought some, sorry, we bought some chips, and I was like, we are not spending any more than £5, and so I become like tight when it's with cash, but
Yes.
with a
Yes.
card, like,
It's
so
like it's
yeah.
not real money with a card, right? And so mentally, I do
Uh,
the same thing. It's so hard to hand over the cash, and it's like I'll put stuff back in the store, but like I don't really want
yeah,
to spend my money on
yeah.
this. But when it's a
So that,
card, we don't think about. We just swipe it.
yeah. So because we were coming back home, my son was like, "Oh, I wanted a drink," and I went, "No, we've got drinks at home." So because I was like, "We're not spending any more than £5," so we just bought some chips, and it was like £2, so I got no, it was £3, so I got £2 back, and we had drinks at home, so I was like, "That's good." So yeah, the cash thing I think is going to work.
Yeah, I think so too. I think both of those things will really help you. And so if you haven't already with your budget, just
Mm.
kind of make a priority list since you have different money coming in at different times, and kind of try to plan, like if you know the money's coming on a certain date, like a fixed date, which I assume probably most of that does, for the most part,
Yeah.
then you can say, okay, when this money comes in, I'm going to put it towards this, this, and this. Just be really specific with your plan so that when the money comes in, you don't have to think about it. And it's not, oh, I'll just do whatever and then the money's gone, type of thing. So it sounds like you have a really good head start on your mindset and things like that. So I'm really excited to see what you do with the cash in the notebook, because I feel like just from talking to you this little bit that you are going to be very successful and take action right away.
I hope so. I just can't carry on the way that I'm doing. And, when you've got a child and you're responsible,
Yep.
you can't mess up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And when you have more income coming in, once you kind of get this foundational stuff, as long as you carry it over and don't get like too relaxed, then you're going to be able to like really invest and make some big financial goals happen. So that's awesome.
So that's good to hear because, that's obviously the next step now. Just get back working and yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So do you have any other questions or anything else you want to talk about before we wrap up?
Um, I just try and think practically. No, I feel like I could ask you so many questions, but I think actually it's just about breaking it down and just concentrating on the things that you have said. And then I can speak to you about, like, got £200 on that credit card, but I'm not going to have any money unless I do this, so I can't think about that.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. One thing at a time. Focus on one thing because otherwise we just get overwhelmed by all the things and don't know what to focus on. So that's good.
yeah, that's really good. Um, oh, maybe, I don't know if maybe this is a question. I run 3 bank accounts.
You have what?
3 bank
3?
accounts,
Mhm.
and I don't think I utilize them very well.
Okay.
So maybe that would be good. There's one bank account that all my direct debits go out of, and I've got them all at the same day.
Okay.
So that's that one. That's got an overdraft on,
Okay.
which is really hard to come out of your overdraft. So I think that would be my first, once I've got this, I think that would be my first goal. And then I've just got another two. And what I tend to do is money comes in and I just get it out so that I've got money for the month. So is there a way that I could utilize those 3 bank accounts better? If that makes any sense.
Um, yeah, probably. So, I like the idea of having everything come out of one account. So it's kind of like your money in, money out account. And the other two could be used as, different spending accounts, kind of like the cash envelopes, but in a digital way. So you could have just like your extra spending, like, food and eating out, kind of like the variable expenses, and then the other one could be for any expenses that you just know you want to save for, like birthday, Christmas, holidays, vacation, other longer term, I guess, or not month to month, but one could be just like your spending account. And then when the money's gone, it's gone. And then
Mm.
you could use it kind of like a digital envelope. And then the other one could be just the in and out, like you already are doing. So if that works for you, if you like that, you could definitely do that. The only thing with that is you still need to have a specific plan for what you need to spend out of that account. Because if it just goes all into one pot, you could accidentally spend money you need for food on something else. So you still got to kind of have an idea and a plan for what your budget is for those categories in that account as well, which you could do in a spreadsheet or just on, pen and paper. So that kind of is up to you with, how I talked about the tracking with the column, the extra columns. You could kind of do that and just have it in the one account though, if that
Okay,
makes
that's
sense. So then you're not spending your bills money on accident, like if that ever happens to you. So you could have this, like the bills account and then the spending account and then the savings account.
okay. That sounds really good. Thank
Awesome.
you.
You're welcome.
Oh
Anything
wow.
else?
Okay. Uh, no, I feel like that's something I can start doing, tomorrow when we go out.
Awesome. Yes, that's awesome. Well, thank you for coming on the or on a budget for a budget strategy session. I appreciate you taking the time and being willing to show up for us.
Thank you.